Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful Wednesday. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you have had a great and productive week so far. My week has been bananas. It has been so busy, you guys. I'm not complaining though. Trust me. I'm not complaining. However, it has definitely been a whirlwind. I looked back at it and I was like, gosh, it's just the end of January. And when I tell you everything has been going, it's been happening at lightning speed, you guys. So I pray that you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday so far. I want to go ahead and welcome you guys to the Mental Wellness Sanctuary. I am your host, Francis McMiller, licensed mental health therapist and coach and consultant here in Jacksonville, Florida, you guys. So I just wanted to, I'll give people a few minutes to pop in. I want to say thank you to those of you that took the time out of your busy day on Saturday of last week to join me, guys. It was such a beautiful experience. I love to see people getting the things and the information that they need, right, in order for them to be able to thrive and to be able to just move forward in their process, move forward in everything that they have going on. So I just wanted to say thank you guys that took the time out to actually join me. I will be coming up with another um, workshop probably in March. I'm still ironing out the kinks with that as far as the topic and everything. So be on the lookout for that next month as I will start advertising for the next mental wellness sanctuary workshop. So you guys keep looking for that. I am definitely going to keep that ball rolling because, like I said, it was such a great experience. Um, also wanted to remind you guys, of course, that I do have my books available. I have my journals available. Those links will be popping up in the comment section soon. So for those of you that might need that, or if you're looking for services, my services are open for coaching. I do business coaching as well as mental health coaching, and then I also do counseling, of course. That's my base trade, but then I'm also doing consulting for those of you that may not need a coach, but you might need to know how to get certain things started within your businesses, and especially when it comes to anything childcare or mental health based. I can definitely help you get that process started. I'm also open right now for qualify as a qualified supervisor for those that are registered mental health counseling interns. So if you know of somebody that needs a qualified supervisor, I am also open for that. And so those links, guys, will go out in the comment section in just a moment. And I'll try to make sure that I remember to post them at the end of each live. Y'all bear with me because sometimes I just get all caught up and I forget to go ahead and do that. So without further ado, guys, I wanted to talk to you guys about trusting your process, okay? And of course, most of the time, like I always say, I usually have to be the first one to eat this meal. So wanted to share with you guys some of the things that most people, even when I'm coaching, even when I'm counseling, even when I'm consulting, guys, a lot of times I find that we just have such a difficult time with actually trusting our process, right? So for those of you that are able to, put it in the comment section or whatever, I have one question for you guys. Um, what are some of your reasons or some of the reasons you think that people do not trust their process? And of course, y'all, I'm going to break it down a little bit and I'm going to talk to you about some of the areas that I have actually seen and me myself personally have worked through, having difficulties with. So if you have it, go ahead and put it inside of the chat for me. And I'll go ahead and share some of those things. And I don't plan to be up here before you guys for a long time. But I really wanted to just share with you some of the things that I felt like I have noticed, some of the things that are on my heart and in my spirit to share with you guys about it. So some of the reasons why a lot of us have a hard time with trusting our process is the fact that we um, we have some kind of fear. We have some kind of something another. We may not trust, we may not have faith, we may not have certain things in the moment, based off of what we've experienced in the past, based off of what we've seen presently in front of us, trying to think about some of the things that, God may have spoken to us about, like how our, how this is supposed to unfold. But at the end of the day, there's always a process to that. And I find that a lot of us want to skip our process, or we want to skip steps in our process. And so because of that, we end up struggling a little bit more than we actually need to, if we don't be trying to not do certain things and do certain things. So for those of you that are watching, I just want to say thank you for joining me this evening. So the first question I had for you guys was, what are some of the reasons why we won't trust our process? So I'll put that over here on the side for you guys to think about it. And then I am also going to share another thing too, or another question. I'm gonna go ahead and ask it now because it kind of coincides with the other one. So the second part of that is, what parts of the process are you refusing to accept? So of course, the first one is, what are some reasons why we won't trust our process? But then I also want you to think about some of the reasons why you are refusing to accept it. Oh yeah, well, you know what? Skipping steps because of wanting to be controlled. Yeah, well, that's a good one. And that's a lot of people's issue oftentimes. And honestly, and I know I did a live about, having control issues way back when, but we have to be mindful of that, right? Because at the end of the day, there are not a lot of things that, I mean, technically there are some things we have control over, like our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions and stuff like that. But when it comes to the purpose, when it comes to our calling in life, or our process, we don't necessarily always get a chance to control that process. We get to control the decisions that we choose to make in regards to, whether we follow or not. But at the same time, oftentimes we don't always do that. So, what I'm saying, at the end of the day, having control is one of the biggest things. Like I said, fear. So the second thing that keeps us from moving into our process or trusting our process is that there's a certain fear behind that. And when we think about fear, I want you guys to think about it like this, right? So think about the process of something. I want you to think about the process of something. Usually, though, when it comes to certain things, I have found, just personally, just for me, I can't speak for everybody else, that in seasons where I struggled a lot with like fear or control, was because at the baseline, and I know it sounds bad what I'm about to say, but I just really did not have the faith, or I really did not have the trust in God like I should have had it. Because if I really did trust, and if I really had faith, right, I would have, even though I might have been kicking and screaming and negotiating, y'all know how I do. Um, at least I would have had a little, I felt like I would have handled some of my processes in different stages of my life or whatever, even now, a little bit differently, if I truly had the real trust and faith in God. And I have figured out here recently, that anytime that kind of happens, I realize that He's personally stretching my faith and personally stretching my trust. And like I said, I can't speak for everybody else, but I will say that definitely, more than likely, that was the thing that was happening to me. And so if we try to missteps of our process or things like that, I felt like, looking at me, hindsight 2020, like I was missing out on the stretching um of my actual process. Like I was missing out on that. I was missing the opportunities, and I know it doesn't always feel good, right? But I was missing opportunities to really allow God to get the glory in my life. And to piggyback off of what Dominique said in terms of control, during certain stages of trusting my process, I relied totally on myself. my own strength, my own wisdom, my own knowledge about a lot of things. And of course, we don't know the beginning from the end. We don't know what's coming up the road. We don't know any of those things, right? And so I don't know about anybody else, but I would find myself personally exhausted. I would find myself aggravated. I would find myself having to repeat things. I would find myself going into circles, and it would just frustrate me. And so I wanted to also bring that part up as well, right? So do keep that in mind. Um, where's that other part? So another reason why, y'all, and I don't really like to say this word because it's like such a it's not a cuss word. It feels like one. Um, I just didn't want to do it, y'all. I just whatever it was that the Lord was clear about that He wanted me to do, how He wanted me to do it. I just didn't want to go about it that way. I've just been honest. So a lot of times when it came to trusting my process, I'm gonna tell y'all, I'd be like, you know, again, negotiator. If I could do it this way, that way, go left and go right and still get there, we still get to the same spot, right? The Lord's like, no. It's like, no, that's not what I asked you to do. No problem. At the flip side, y'all, um, besides my disobedience and my trusting of the process, the other part of that also, right, was the mere fact that I knew that within my process there was going to be a specific level of discomfort. And the discomfort was going to come in those parts of my process that I knew I was going to have to do. If that meant letting go of something, uh, letting go of a person, changing environments, uh, things along that nature. When I realized that I was going to have to make changes and let people go and all that other stuff, I struggled a lot with that. I struggled a lot with that because on the opposite side of trusting your process, for the most part, is the fear of the unknown, right? So with the fear of the unknown, it's like, oh my gosh, this means if I let this go, which is what something familiar, right? Then that means I make room for something that might be a little bit more unfamiliar or will be unfamiliar to me. So, and a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, a lot of that's a scary part of their process, and that's a lot of reasons why people do not move forward um, in their processes the way that they could, right? Um, Another thing that came up, and this one's for me personally, is like, if God shares something with you or me about something in significance to us, right? Oh yeah, being uncomfortable is a big deal. Oh, your whole process is going to be uncomfortable. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. You can't get around being uncomfortable. And I have found a lot of times that it puts you in this place, right? Um, in order for you to be able to kind of make those shifts and make those changes. So we definitely know that being uncomfortable is a big deal. And because we don't have a timeline for how long the discomfort is going to be, um, what we end up doing is like saying, nope, no, mm-mm. And then the Lord is like, okay, where's your trust? Where's your faith? I promised you what I promised you. And so because of that, this is what I'm expecting you to do. And of course, whenever God tells us to do something, more than likely He gives you some instructions behind how to do that. And most of the time, those instructions are not always what we would like to do. But we have to be obedient. We have to go ahead and do those things. If not, then they hear that thing, obedience is always better than sacrifice and things like that. So that's just one of those things to just keep in the forefront of your mind, right? As to reasons why we don't do it. Another reason why we have a hard time, y'all, And this is kind of like the last reason before I give you all some questions to kind of sort of think about, because I like to leave you guys with a little bit of homework. But the last reason why, or one of the last reasons why, it's actually two. Um, well, no, it's one, but it because of it puts you into the other place. But we focus so much on the process of other people around us. Um, we focus on the process of what this other person is doing and how things unfolded for them, and how they moved, how God moved in their lives versus how he moved in ours. We spend so much time focusing in on somebody else's life, somebody else's walk, somebody else's process. And if we're not careful, we will find ourselves trying to mimic how that situation unfolded in that person's life, or how this person business blew up. If I do it this way, then that's how it's going to be for me, and so on and so forth. But honestly, we have to get to this place, guys. And the reason why I didn't say trust the process, but it's because I wanted you to think about trusting your process, because everybody didn't, like we say all the time, there's nobody else in the world with your DNA, with your you know fingerprints and things like that. So we can't expect for anybody's lives to mirror the exact same thing. Even when it comes to identical twins, yes, they look exactly alike, but their lives are not going to be mirrored the exact same. So if identical twins who have the same DNA, the same face, so on and so forth, if their lives are not even mirrored to one another, then what makes us think that our lives would do the same thing? So do keep that in mind, to make sure that we do not compare ourselves to somebody else's process to our own, because it won't exactly be the same. Will you encounter people who may be able to help you through parts of your process? Absolutely. And God may have strategically placed those people there to help you, but that doesn't mean that yours is going to be the exact same. Okay, that's not what that means. And you're right, we do lack gratitude for our own personal journeys. That is not something that, and I talk about gratitude often, especially for those that are struggling to appreciate their journey, appreciate the things that they have going on. A lot of times I try to encourage that part of gratitude. I try to encourage them to appreciate where they are personally, because um, if you don't have that appreciation for where you are personally, what usually ends up happening is you will find yourself feeling defeated, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're less than, and different things like that. And guess what? At the end of the day, that is not how you're supposed to be, perceiving yourself or your process. So do be careful of that, guys, as you're going through your own process in life, that you do not compare yourself to others. I probably got to do a live about comparison. Hmm. Gotta add that to the list. Um, so what I wanted to also point out to you was something else that I had been studying when it comes to people understanding their process. And God reminded me of this over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, about everything being beautiful in its time. And for those of you that may or may not be familiar with that chapter in the Bible, it's in Ecclesiastes 3, and it starts with verses 1 through 8. And in the previous season of my life, God had me get somewhere and sat down, y'all, and He had me to study, you know, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. And because He had me study that, He just broke everything down to a place where it's like, okay, I hear you, God, I hear you. And it let me know that for everything that we have, there's an example, a time to laugh is a time to cry, but all of that is a part of the process. And so when He had me go back and look at it again, and took me to another part, which I'll share with you guys in just a minute. But at the time that I was studying verses 1 through 8, he was letting me know that there's that process to everything, right? And that at its right time, at its appointed time, everything will be exactly the way that it's supposed to be, and that it will be totally beautiful in its time, right? And so my recent study, though, has been a little bit different. So, still in Ecclesiastes 3, but he took me to verses 11 and verses 14. So, I'm going to read those for you guys because it's really important as a part of us being able to trust our process when it comes to God and what it is that he's asking us to do. And so Ecclesiastes 3, verse 11 says, "Yet God has made everything beautiful in its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from the beginning to the end." And so when he was sharing this, scripture to me, it was like, okay, everything gonna be good. Everything is gonna be exactly the way that I told you it was going to be. But keep in mind, you don't know what it's going to be like from the beginning to end. Only God knows that. And so, because we don't know what that looks like, we definitely have to trust that process, because there are things that need to happen along your process in order for it to turn out to be beautiful in its time, right? And so I was like, okay, Lord, I hear you. And then after I got hit with the left hook, he hit me with the right one. Okay, so let me hit y'all with the right one. So when I got down to it, it says verse 14. It says, and I know that whatever God does is final, right? This is the part where he hit me upside the head, y'all. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear him, right? But it wasn't that part. It was nothing can be added to it or taken from it, right? And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because it lets us know a part of this process. Guess what? You can't add nothing to it. Don't add your seasoning and your sauce and all the stuff that you think you might need to help you get through this process. No, you can't add that. And no, you can't skip steps. And no, you can't take away from whatever it was. It's one of those things how the people said, he said what he said. Okay. And he gave you the instructions on what he said and how he wanted to do, how he wanted you to do it, right? And so listen, I am just simply here to tell you guys that you cannot skip those instructions. You cannot skip those steps. You are not able to go outside of it because you're going to miss those very pertinent, important steps to your process. And like I remind you guys all the time, the process that you're presently going through is a process that's going to help somebody else get through it, their process. No, again, their process is not going to mirror yours, but there will be similarities, and you'll be able to encourage and minister to people that be able to help them get to this place, right, where they're able to begin to really trust their process. They're able to say, hey, if it happened for you and you did it this way, then it can definitely happen for me. And basically, guys, the final part of that is that it puts you into trusting that process, right? It puts you in perfect alignment with whatever it was that God said that he was going to do in your life. So know that if he asked you to do it, if he gave you instructions, if you trust that process and you stay on it, you're going to be in perfect alignment with wherever it is that he would have you to be in at that time. And then you can go on confidently building your faith, building your trust in what it is that he's saying. Now, sometimes I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes when he say do this, that, and the third in this process, and you like, I know what you said, Lord. And then when you go and you look, it doesn't look like what he said, or whatever the case may be. Just know that if you stay on course and you stay in proper alignment and you follow those directions and those instructions, then guess what? Eventually, at some point in time, it'll will be beautiful in its time, and it'll be better than you imagined it's going to be, because at the end of the day, God was the one that orchestrated it for you to happen that way. And you got to remember, guys, a lot of times when we think about things, our little minds can't even fathom some of the great things, or just the beauty of how God would have that thing unfold for you, versus you trying to be that person doing whatever it is that you're trying to do, and those things not unfolding the way that they should, or they end up causing more harm than good, or different things like that, y'all. So I wanted to throw that out there so that you guys will know to reconsider the areas into which you are not trusting your process. Okay. It's crucial, it's vital. I know it's uncomfortable. I know that people are going to be looking at you sideways, because maybe what you're doing is not the traditional way or the worldly way of doing things. I know that at times you're going to be like, Lord, I don't see your hand on this. You keep telling me to trust you, but things look like they're going in a different direction than I know what you said. I mean, all these little different things are going to come up along that process, right? But we definitely have to make sure that we stay the course and that we stay focused, y'all. Because I'm telling you, if you don't know nothing about anything else, just know that there's definitely going to be a testing of the faith. It's going to be a testing of, do you really trust him? There's going to be a test of, you really are seeking his face, and if you're really spending time with him. And I think a lot of times, this last part too, I think a lot of times we have a difficult time with trusting our process, because we are not even sitting at his feet. We're not praying like we should be. We're not doing certain things like we should be. And y'all, sometimes that is just not, listen. Anyway, we're not going to get the instructions that we need in order to be able to trust our process. We're not going to um, get to the place where we know him for ourselves, and we know and understand how he speaks to us, and different things like that. Like, all of that is a part of that process. So you can't skip that step either. That's another part of the step. Sitting at his feet, getting those instructions, doing whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, right? So I'm going to leave you guys with this question. I went ahead and put the information in the chat if you need to reach me for a consultation, if you need to reach me for a qualified supervisor consultation, or if you were looking for, products like journals, affirmation cards, my book Mask Off. All of that is available on my website. So if you click that website, you can get to each one of those links, or if you just want to get to the specific thing that you need, then it's right there, y'all. So I'm going to put these questions also in the chat, because I don't want people to miss the questions. So what are your reasons for not embracing? Y'all can write these down. Your process, right? And what parts, right? Let me put this in here. What parts of your process are you refusing to accept? And why? Why, y'all? Why? Why? Because we can't make the change if you look at that and you see, oh my gosh, I'm having such a hard time embracing this part of my process, or I'm finding myself stuck here. Well, why are you stuck? What is it that is causing you to be that way? And then, of course, that means that there may be a possibility that you might be in delayed obedience or disobedience. Okay. So I'm going to add a question for that. Are there any parts, right, where you are inactive or delayed? I'm going to put that, or delayed uh, disobedience, right, to what God is saying to you about you, and your process and what he is requiring of you to do. Because whew, this ain't for the faint of heart either. Trusting this process, and none of it is. And then the last question, y'all, I'm going to leave you with is what is something that will be required, right? That will be required so that you are able to begin to just embrace your process from a different mental standpoint, from a healthier standpoint, from a more faith driven, trust in God faith point. Like, what is something that will be required? What is something that needs to happen in order for you to be able to do that? Okay. So I'm going to put that last question in the chat. Because it's important. And I don't want you guys to wake up the next day, right? Or this time next year or 6 months from now and find yourselves in the same space because you refuse to trust your process. I don't know about you, but me personally, that's one of the biggest things that really impact me is to see to feel like I'm not making progress, and that the progress I could be making is stifled or whatever because I'm refusing to embrace bits and pieces of my process, or I'm not moving forward, or because of my disobedience, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I'm out of alignment. One of the biggest things I wanted to remind you guys too, that sometimes when we have a difficult time with trusting our process, we miss a lot of, or could miss a lot of opportunities for things. My pastor said it on Sunday, and it's kind of been one of those things that has kind of stuck with me, right? He said, there's nothing more expensive than a missed opportunity. And when I heard that, it was like, oh, Lord Jesus. There's nothing more expensive than a missed opportunity. And this is not only naturally speaking, y'all, this is spiritually speaking for me. And just thinking about it in like this big old hindsight 2020, like there is really, outside of missed time, and time could be factored into that because we talked about time last week, y'all. But I'm just saying there's nothing more expensive than a missed opportunity. There really isn't. And one of the most eye-opening things for me about that quote that he shared was the mere fact and the mere truth that sometimes we don't get another opportunity to get it right. Sometimes we don't get another opportunity to try again. Sometimes we don't get that opportunity all over again. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are taking the time out to actually focus in on our process, where we've been in comparison, where we've been doing certain things. Even checking our heart posture, y'all, because sometimes our heart posture gets in the way. And our heart posture could be towards people, it can be towards God, it can be towards the way God is taking us through this process. It could be a lot of different reasons why, but I really want you guys to think about this in its totality. Like, you have to think about those things that are really delaying your process or keeping you from trusting fully in the process that you have. Okay. And so that is really all I had for you guys this evening. I just wanted to shed some light, right, on just the areas that I feel like really stop you from moving forward. And then I want you to think about some of the things that you need to start doing, and then to start doing those things. Okay. So I will be back here. So it's February. It's a February, y'all. Oh Lord, time is flying, y'all. So next week is February, and guess what, y'all? We're gonna be back here at the Mental Wellness Sanctuary with your host, Frances McMillan. licensed mental health therapist, coach, consultant, and counselor here in Jacksonville, Florida. Next week's topic, and I know I put this out here because I was really thinking about that thing, and I think I'm going to do one about comparison, but I think I'm also going to do one about accountability. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but I am just seeing such an increase of people that do not want to take accountability for themselves, for their actions. It's always somebody else that did it. Oh, I didn't know, but the information was provided to you as you didn't read it. Like, I don't know, y'all, but we got to have a conversation about this lack of accountability or thereof, because it's a little disturbing to me, to say the least. But next Wednesday, it's gonna be February 7th. Just flying. Anyway, next Wednesday, I'm gonna be doing my live starting in February, starting at 7 p.m. instead of 7:30, y'all. So just keep that in mind. I know I've usually been doing 7:30, but I'm gonna do 7. Next week topic is going to be talking about, are you thriving or are you surviving? Um, I think a lot of us have grown up in a particular area, setting, background, certain things that have just put us in a surviving type of mentality or role. And because of that, y'all, because of that, it really gets into the way of us being able to thrive, and for us to be able to thrive in the way that God would like us to thrive, right? So I am definitely going to be talking to you guys about thriving versus surviving. I want you guys to think about that, because that's probably going to be a really good chat right there. So anyway, y'all, I want to say thank you guys for joining me this evening. Don't forget, I went ahead and posted those links again, like I said, inside of the chat. This is the book, Mask Off, y'all. This is a journal, of course. And I always got my cards on deck, y'all. So if you guys are in need of those, just let me know. You can order them directly from the website. If you're local, I will sign your stuff. If you want me to mail it out and you want me to sign, I'll absolutely sign and autograph the book, the journals, whatever it is that you might order. So you guys have a wonderful Wednesday night. Think about your process. Think about how you can embrace it differently, with more faith, with more trust, with more structure, with more instructions, with more intentionality. And we will be back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. with Surviving or Thriving, y'all. So have an amazing evening, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.